everybody, it's Georgia Rose. I'm in the soul space, Zencuda soul space. I've been running around all day, but well, kind of, sort of, not really. Just busy, busy day. So how are you all? I'd love it if you would comment and call into the show today and let me know how you're doing. How are things going with just in general life and the end of a year, beginning of a new one? It's very exciting, I think. So we're going to talk a lot today about so many different things. I have so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. We're going to start with astrology. We're going to start with, I don't know. What should I start with? We're going to start with solar flares, astrology, um, the holiday season. What are you guys thinking? I don't even know. So I guess I'll start with just what I'm feeling. I'm just going to kind of wing it tonight, and the energy is going to take us wherever we're going to go. How's that sound? So who have I got in the soul space tonight? Let me just get on my comments here. I am here every Monday night. Hey, Janine, Darlene, how you guys doing? Sarah's on. Sarah and I are going to be talking tomorrow, I think. So first I want to talk about solar flares, I think. That's the first thing I want to talk about. So it came to my attention recently. Like, I've always heard about solar flares and people talk about them. How you guys like my Christmas tree forest here, right? It's so pretty. I got those at the dollar store. Dollar store still has some really cool stuff, so I go often. So I recently came across some info on solar flares, and the reason why it crossed my desk was because, as I said, I've always thought about solar flares, and I've always known solar flares were a thing, and a lot of times, even at my yoga studio, people talk about them, and they say, they're not feeling well, or they feel more aches and pains, or more exhaustion, etc., when the solar flares are really in play. So I'm going to tell you what a solar flare is, and then I'm going to talk to you about why it crossed my desk. So solar flares, I have a bunch of notes here about it, because, I don't remember stuff anymore. So solar flares are when the sun emits magnetic fields and plasma, right? The sun is made up of all this magnetic fields and power and solar, we call it solar because the sun energy. And so every once in a while, the sun will have a burst, and they call these coronal mass ejections. And what happens is some plasma and some energy and some magnetic field matter will come off the sun, and it travels all the way from the sun to the earth. And sometimes it'll hit earth, sometimes it'll hit the magnetic field of the earth. And we as humans can actually feel this. It's magnetic. It knocks out radios, or GPS will act fluky, or sometimes your cell phone is acting really strangely, all because the GPSs get knocked out, the satellites get knocked out. So there is a website where you can go and actually monitor solar flares. And it's Space Weather Prediction Center. It's an actual thing. It's part of NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And the website is swpc.noaa.gov. So it's the Space Weather Prediction Center and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. swpc.noaa.gov. And what they do on that site is they give you the current space weather conditions. Like, we actually have satellites and big magnetometers, as they're called, to measure the magnetic field in the earth. And they actually monitor all the time, like what kind of magnetic fields are coming into the earth, or what kind of plasma is being released, that kind of stuff from the sun. So if you want to know what's going on with the solar flares and the magnetic field of the earth, that's a great place to go, because that particular website, once again, swpc.noaa.gov, every day gives you the space weather. So the reason why all of a sudden solar flares became a thing for me, and as I said, they've always been running in the background. I've known about them and understood them, but I never really paid a lot of attention to them until the other day, December 14th, we had the largest solar radio flare event ever recorded. And now you guys know I watch the astrology. So I'm looking at the astrology and I'm seeing the planet Uranus has been very, very active as far as aspects with other planets lately and different transits that we've had. And you know that when I talk about Uranus, I'm always talking about the fact that it's destabilizing. A lot of times when we have earthquakes and things like that, it's because Uranus is in play, and Pluto and Uranus have been in play for the last 3 years. And you heard me talk about them on the show all the time. And so what happens is, it's so funny, as above, so below, right? What's ever going on in the sky always goes on here. So I see this thing come across, and it was right at the time when I was studying about Uranus and some of the transits that we have coming in 2024. And I'm like, gosh, I wonder if the planetary positions have anything to do with these solar flares coming off the sun and these CMEs, which are the coronal mass ejections that are also the plasma of the sun, just like these explosive things that the sun releases and then they come down to our Earth. So there's a huge correlation between this. And as a matter of fact, in 2024, I believe we'll probably have the most active solar flare year, CME releases from the sun year ever, because we've got Uranus in play in some really, really major ways. So this is really going to affect us. And I think that it's coming at a time when Pluto is going into Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, huge Uranian energy coming through there. And then we've got this historic thing that's happening in 2024 with some planetary things, which I'll talk about in a minute. And so these coronal mass ejections are so huge. Like, some of them take up as much space as a quarter of the distance between the Earth and the sun. Like, that's how huge some of these ejections from the sun can be. And we're in a time where we've never seen ejections like this before. They've never been recorded, right? In 1859, there was one of the largest ever noticed or ever seen interruptions to power. And at the time, this was going back now a long time ago, in 1859, it was when we really just started to have some forms of power or electricity or things like that. Or back then it was actually radio waves with the telegraph, right? And they were completely interrupted, down in certain areas for 6 months. And they thought it was because of these emissions that were happening from the sun. So coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, are large explosions of plasma, large explosions of plasma and magnetic fields from the sun's corona. Now, you all know that we have an electric system, right? Not just in our homes, and we have a GPS in our car, and all these things are run through satellites, which get really interrupted when the coronal masses are ejected. But we also have electrical systems, our nervous system, right? We have electrical charges for the heart and the brain and all these things. So I think these huge solar flares and these huge CMEs, combined with the way the planets are going right now, are really going to affect us humans in a lot of different ways. If you've been feeling exhausted, if you've been feeling sometimes just nauseous, I know lately for me, sometimes I'll just take a drink of water and all of a sudden I just feel really nauseated. And I think it's because my body's frequency is changing and it can't always digest or take in or integrate three-dimensional things. And so we are being accelerated as a species at an alarming rate. And I've been saying this for years, but now 2024, the upgrades that we are going to have are going to be so unbelievably amazing, but at the same time, also sometimes challenging and difficult for us to integrate. So it's really important that we practice self-care. These CMEs and the solar flares, that they travel so quickly. When I did research, I understand that some of these travels 250 kilometers per second, up to 3,000 kilometers per second. These waves are just explosive and just hitting the Earth like this. And some of them take days to get here and others get here in 15 hours. Can you imagine how fast something has to travel to get here within 15 hours from being released from the sun? That's tremendous. 3,000 kilometers per second. I can't even imagine anything that fast. So these are really amazing happenings. They're predicting that 2024 is going to be the most active year for solar flares and coronal mass ejections ever. And they generate these shock waves and they cause radiation storms out in space. They cause solar winds. They can interrupt satellite systems, GPSs. They can interrupt the electrical magnetic fields in our homes, around our bodies. They can interrupt radio transmissions. They also interrupt satellites that are used to actually observe these things happening, and the way that our governments and our weather systems follow these things that are really in deep space, analyzing this as it happens. So the other thing is these CMEs cause these geomagnetic storms, and they release the plasma, the cloud, the magnetic fields happens. And so NOAA, or that site that I said to go to, the National Oceanic Administration, and also the when I was just giving you the Space Weather Prediction Center, they use a series of stages to actually classify these flares. And the most extreme is a G5. And I'm just going to go on because I saved something in my thing here that I want to look at. Yeah. So the way that it goes is the G5 is the extreme. That's when usually you have widespread power outages, control problems, grid systems go down, things like that. We even had an incident, I think it was about maybe 10 years ago, where the space station up in space had no power for 15 minutes, lost complete contact with any outside anything because of one of these solar flares. So you can only imagine what it does to our bodies. And the symptoms that we realize when we are undergoing or becoming extremely sensitive to solar flares is you can have headaches that come on very suddenly, almost like a sinus or a pressure headache. I know one of my friends was saying they had that very badly the other day, right around the time this huge solar flare was released. Then they downgrade. They have something called the G4, which is just severe. And that's when you also can have power outages. And you can, your GPS on your car might not work, or maybe your car isn't working right, or the electrical systems in your houses or your cars, just kind of fluky. And then we've got strong, which is G3, which is usually what you see as G3 and below. Those are basically just intermittent navigation flaws, or low frequency radio navigation will pause for a few minutes or something like that. And these electromagnetic fields are also responsible for the auroras that we see up on the Northern Lights. They say that the end of 23 and 24 are going to be absolutely magnificent for those because of these CMEs and the IMFs, the intermagnetic fields. And then you have a G2, which is a moderate system. That's usually a system that'll affect some radio, and it'll fade, at higher latitudes. But the auroras can be seen as low as New York when we're in a G2 system. And then G1 is animals are affected. So animals are affected from the lowest point of a CME because, animals have, tracking devices like whales. We've seen a lot of whales wash up on the shore lately, and some people are blaming the wind farms. But now I'm starting to think that it's these solar flares that interrupt their magnetic way that they, can sonar that they use to get around the sonar. So if your animal's acting strangely, or your animal's really lethargic, or seems to have some kind of a virus, you may need to take them to the vet, but it could also be that they're extremely sensitive to these CMEs, because animals feel them in their most minor stage, and we may not. We may start to feel them around a G2 or a G3, and animals have already been feeling them for a while. So when we have one like we had the other day, where it was like the biggest flare recorded in like ever recorded, something like that is going to really affect all of us. So if you guys are feeling sick over the weekend, that's what it was about. So I really urge you to go on that swpc.noaa.gov and really think about if you can get more information about the solar flares, the CMEs, track and see what you feel like maybe you're reacting to, I think is a really good place to go. But I'm telling you, I think that these have to do with our upgrades as a species. And what I'm going to say is the way that the astrology works into this is in January, Pluto goes into Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus. It's going to stay there for many, many years. Probably in my lifetime, it won't be anyplace else. So that intensifies all the Aquarian energy, and that's ruled by Uranus, which is that disruptor, which is what these CMEs are and these solar flares are. They're disruptive to the planet. They're magnetic. They're electric. That's Uranus. It's electricity. It's sudden, unexpected changes that occur on a cellular level. And so then we have Pluto and Uranus doing things together that are making things very unstable. And then Mars conjuncts Pluto in March. In March, we also have Mars square Uranus. So this is a huge amount of Uranian energy coming in, disrupting. A lot of times when we have Uranus in play in a very intense way, it can cause these earthquakes and volcanoes and things on a very huge magnitude because it disrupts the electromagnetic fields of Earth. And now we've got something coming off planet disrupting the electromagnetic fields of Earth. So this is really going to be 2024. You're going to see a lot of three-dimensional things hugely disrupted. And we as a body, as a nervous system, are going to react to that. So I think as Earth gets destabilized by these things, you're going to see we humans be disturbed and destabilized by it. And I think that you're going to see a lot of mental illness come into play. We still have, Neptune and Pisces, which is very much those, being unbounded, going into fantasy. I think you're going to see people feeling really edgy. It's going to be harder to sleep and more jazzed up. So you really have to be kind to yourself. And I also want to say that I think that this also will bring in a lot of healing technology because Uranus is a very forward-thinking, Aquarius is a very forward-thinking energy, especially to with technology and science. So I think you're going to see a lot of things happening with healing dimensions. And I think a lot of things with free energy is going to happen. A lot of things are going to come into play with that. But the great news is, and the beautiful news is that this is a rapid upgrade. This is like the Earth's magnetic field is being disturbed, and you have to ask yourself, well, why is this happening? Well, it's happening because we are getting upgraded, as we release a lot of these three-dimensional things, the body reacts. And of course, you're going to feel nervous. You're going to feel edgy. We're going into areas and places where we've never been before, right? Body-wise and in many different ways. So our body will react to that. So if you feel edgy, you can't sleep, things like this are the reason why. And, you're going to be feeling like you'll look at the computer screen and something will happen and you'll be like, that can't happen. That's impossible to happen. Anything to do with electricity, lighting, a lot of really strange phenomena is going to start to occur because we're changing that. And the other thing that I have to really start doing some research about too, and if you guys do, and let me know, how is this going to affect time and space, right? I mean, the electromagnetic fields, like think about so many of these movies that we've watched where like the clocks stop and, all these things. So I'm thinking is it affecting our space and the space we take up? And is this all really just something that isn't real anyway? And now we're going into another dimension where we don't need the body? Is that the ultimate? A lot of things to think about. I'll tell you that much. So next thing I want to talk about is the astrology. In my last Soul Space podcast, I talked a lot about the end of December and what to expect. This is a really unbelievably ripe time to set intentions for 2024, which we all do, but this goes beyond a New Year's resolution. This is really setting up who you want to be. It's just setting up who are you becoming in 2024 from a really deep perspective. So I would use this time to really get rid of many of the things that may be holding you back, making your life heavy in any way, because especially with all these upgrades we're going through on a geomagnetic platform, astrologically, soul space based, this 2024 year is a year where you can accomplish the impossible if you put your mind to it and if you set your intentions properly. So whatever is holding you back, strapping you in, restricting you, making you feel like you can't breathe, can't do, can't move, can't get up, can't go to the next level, get rid of it. This is it now. I'm telling you that. So on December 26th, we have a full moon in Cancer. Full moon in Cancer with the moon in Cancer at 4 degrees and the sun in Capricorn at 4 degrees is all about security. You're going to want to nest, stay home under a warm blanket. You're also going to want financial security. You're going to want to be nurtured. You want to do all those things. Great day to plan a massage or foot massage or any of those things, reflexology. This is a very supportive, nurturing, positive energy that comes in the day after Christmas. However, we also have Mercury retrograde and some planetary things happening that bring back and repeat the energy from Thanksgiving. So if anything, if you can think of anything that was going on with you during Thanksgiving time and also the end of October when we had those eclipses, that is definitely going to repeat. That energy is going to repeat for you somehow. But it's going to be seen now through a different lens. It's going to be seen now through that Cancer Capricorn axis, which is our nurturing. Cancer is the place that is the deepest inside of us. That's why it's the crab with the shell. It's the place where we want to go to hide. It's the place where we want to go to be suppressing things. And in this energy, especially with the sun in Capricorn, you want to use the energy to bring you to a place of creativity and creation. So this full moon is a good new moon. It's very positive. Great way to end the 2023. Bring some positivity into 2024. But there's some things to watch at, because remember I had said to you in the last broadcast that the energy this month supports change, but it's very push and pull, and that we'll have a lot of false starts. Well, this is like the second of the false starts. First one was right around Thanksgiving. Now it's the day after Christmas, and then things will start to move forward like around January 8th. So this is that push-pull energy of like, I want to go. I think I see the way forward now. I can follow my path. I can follow my track. Oh, but wait a second. I didn't see that coming. It's that kind of an energy. It's going to finally let you move forward around January 8th. So just be really gentle with yourselves around this Christmas time. We've still got that North Node in Aries where it's going to stay for the whole of 2024. That means South Node in Libra is dredging up old relationships so we can do them over again, find a new way to really be consistent in our patterns to be healthier in these environments. So you really want to make sure when that day after Christmas comes that you're thinking about that, applying those new ways with optimism and healing. Chiron in Aries is also really wanting to heal us. So because of that, it can really dredge up some things that it wants to reshape and give us new ways to do things. So the other thing I wanted to talk about wasn't astrology. I wanted to talk a little bit about a class that I actually gave today. But I think, do we have a commercial, Bob? So we're going to do a little commercial break. And then when I come back, I'm going to tell you all about the class I gave today.
All right. Is everybody having a good time tonight or what? That's what I thought.
Hi, I'm Georgia Rose, founder of Zencuda. You can watch me on the Soul Space podcast every Friday at noon on Channel 20 for spiritual guidance. And as you all know, that is how I first opened into my own psychic gifts, was through the angelic realm, astrology. So we've got Mars and the Sun together in Scorpio, which creates a lot of combustion. In the astrological world, we call that a cazimi, and tarot. With the Four of Cups right side up, it means we have a lot of choices to make and we're not looking at what's really being divinely given to us. We're too busy in the busyness of the choices to really see the divine intervention, the divine timing, and the divine guidance. We're the place. Watch the Soul Space podcast. Hey everybody, I'm back. So yeah, this is a really cool place, the Paradise Studios down here where we do the Soul Space. So if you're ever in the mood for a little music, stop down on Thursday or Friday night. We got some jams going on here and all kinds of stuff. You never know who's going to walk in. Could be a comedian that you saw on TV or just some dude who has a guitar. So I'm reading the comments during the break, and a couple of things I want to say that I definitely think that a lot of times when we have these kind of, ailments like the nausea, the headaches. I definitely think it could be the EMFs. I especially feel body aches sometimes when I know there's been a solar flare. Sleeping, definitely. And I know Darlene had mentioned something about, not being able to stay asleep. I'm finding that a little bit too, and I'm a really good sleeper. I think that is really indicative of the fact that we're getting huge upgrades, especially when we're in sleep and dream time, because that's when we have no inhibitions. So, your guides and your realms will come in then, the higher realms will come in then to really give you thoughts, or dream space is a great time when they're going to give you some really great inspiration. So I do believe that happens. I also think that because of when the electromagnetic fields of the earth are disturbed, we don't rest as well. We sometimes even wake up feeling very tired. And someone else just wrote, oh, and also Kim Murray wrote, for over 2 months, she's been dreaming more than usual, extremely powerful energy since November. Haven't felt normalcy in months. Yeah, I know that. And in New York City, they've been having a lot of power surges, which affected computer networks. It's all the electromagnetic fields, definitely. But also the dreaming is Neptune. Neptune, in going into these degrees of Pisces that it's going into now, and also being aspected by other planets, which I won't go into the details, is making our dream space very, very vivid. You're going to have very meaningful dreams, and you're going to dream things that you wake up and you can't believe they weren't real. This is going on now for a few months, and it will continue into the end of January. So just know Neptune is that planet that allows us to be unbounded. We know no limitations in Neptune. And Neptune is the planet that always connects us with other and higher realms. Liz Snyder, how are you doing? You're watching. Monica, how are you doing? Doing good. Just want to wish everybody a really, really beautiful season, and have a couple of things that I'm going to talk about regarding the season, and then I'm going to tell you guys about what I taught today in my one of my classes. So one of the things I want to mention about the holidays, because I saw quite a few posts recently about people who've lost loved ones and grieving, and I think it is really important to acknowledge that. I have lost a lot of people in my life. I kind of consider myself an expert on grief. Self-proclaimed, yes, but definitely. And I want to offer some advice to those of you out there who are really struggling with the loss of a parent or a child or a loved one, and it could be a loss that you had many, many years ago. It doesn't matter. Grief doesn't have a timeline, so don't, worry about that part of things. But it took me many, many years to be able to find joy in certain holidays and things, because I was very entrenched in family tradition, and I really missed my mom and dad a lot, and other family members that were extremely close to me. I had an aunt who was like a mother who passed away. I have had many, many friends pass away, some unexpectedly, some who lived with me in recent years. And it's been really, really hard, and loss doesn't have to be death either. It could be, a relationship that's been lost over very tragic circumstances, whether it's a child that no longer speaks to you, or an ex-spouse that you were married to for a very long time and now would acknowledge you. These are all tremendous amounts of grief and loss that we face, and the holidays really amplifies them. So a couple of things that helped me, and I want to put those out to help anybody out there who really needs this. And I've said it before on the show, one of the things that really helped me was gratitude. I truly believe gratitude is the antidote for grief. If you can find anything to be grateful for, it really does put you in a place of no longer being in the grief as heavily. And grief is heavy. Grief comes out of nowhere, and it will turn out the lights quickly. I remember a time, to give you an example of just gratitude, and it could be anything. I remember when I was sick with cancer and in treatment, and grieving the loss of my health, and my parents had just died several months before, 6 months apart from each other, and it was a tremendous amount of loss in my life. And I remember being just really sick and being grateful for like a cracker, because I could get a cracker like down, and just finding gratitude in that, like being so present in the moment that I'm just going to take that and be grateful for it. And that would just slowly flip myself around. I remember being in such a deep loss at one time in my life where I was very, very devastated, on the verge of suicide. And my dog came into the room and brushed up against my leg, and I felt my dog's fur. And it brought me this fleeting, crack of joy that was almost like non-existent, like a flicker. But it brought me back into reality. And so when we grieve that deeply, we have to look for those parts of reality that can bring us out of it. And we have to want that. And sometimes when we get in grief so deep, we don't always want that. We want to stay in the grief because it attaches us to the person, even though it attaches us in the loss of the person. And so you've got to reach for that life preserver, whatever it is. Maybe it's a smile of a kid in your sphere. Maybe it's a chocolate milkshake, or it could be anything. I know that sounds really silly, but those are the things that in those fleeting moments we're like, oh, wait, I like this. I'm feeling something here. I'm being awakened again. It could be the smell of a flower. It could be anything, but you've got to come out of that by being observant of something that's going to bring you to a better place. When we're grieving the loss of a parent, it's been my experience that the loss is so unbelievably deep. And it doesn't matter if you have a relationship that was tight and beautiful with them, or if you had a troubled relationship with them. Because this is a attachment that was formed, if it's your mother in the womb, which is even before you had consciousness like you have in this lifetime. And if it's your father, it's a deeply formed subconscious bond of survival in a different way than mom, but it's the same. Losing parents, even if you never met them, even if you had a horrible relationship with them, whether you had a good one or not, when you lose a parent, our survival instinct is cut off. And so that we grieve deeply, and we grieve in ways that put us in a panic because we are questioning our identity and survival. Because at one time, the core of us, on a cellular level, on a soul level, was embedded into their survival and ours. So when you lose a parent, it's extreme. You can't diminish that. You have to go through it. And it sucks and it's awful, but you have to go through it. The good news is they're up there in a place celebrating a holiday like you never saw. They are in joy that you can't even imagine. They are in love like you can't even imagine. And you will see them again one day. We can't waste the in-between time of that in grief. We have to make them proud of us. We have to be open to their messages for a more divine life. We have to allow them to reach us in a joyful way, because where they are, there's no grief. And we need to honor that. So we have to pull ourselves out of it when the timing is right for us, and take our time and self-care and find the reason of the lesson of the loss. That abduction of something from your life is leading you to a deeper meaning of your life. You're going to find deeper, more meaningful things in that grief. Like the times that I just described to you, what they taught me was finding beauty in the most unexpected places and really stopping and looking at that in order to find my comfort and my salvation. And it's a beautiful thing when that happens. And it's a beautiful thing when you can honor someone who has transitioned over to their next lifetime, their divinity. We should be happy for them and glad for them. And it's not about us in that moment. Our loss is substantial and it needs to be acknowledged, but it can't take over our life, because that defeats the purpose of our soul. So I just wanted to say that, and my heart goes out to everyone who is in a loss right now and really feeling that deeply at the holidays. Some part of that never goes away. We learn to live around it. We learn to integrate it into our joyful times. And I just wanted to say that. So now I want to talk to you about, and if you need to share this show with anybody, share it, because that's what we need to do for each other. That's what the Soul Space is about. This community is about everybody keeping everybody afloat. I wanted to also acknowledge Amore. Lynn Amore was saying her son, who's in Aries, is going through so much right now. North Node is in Aries. What he's going through is he's being pulled like a magnet into his soul purpose. And sometimes we have things that have to get taken away from us in order to see that and see the truth of who we are. And it can be really rough. Again, it's an abduction of our life. It's a loss of things in our life to bring us to where we're really supposed to be. It's the universe's way when we have the North Node in our sun sign. It's the universe's way of pulling us forward into our destiny. Nobody ever said that was easy, right? The hero's journey. And so I want to tell you guys all about, oh, you're welcome, Stephanie. I'm sending blessings to you. Okay, so I did a class today for my agents. You know, you guys know I'm a real estate broker. If anybody needs anything, got a house to sell or have to buy something, call me. So I did a class for my agents at Signature Premier Properties today, and it was all about goals for 2024 and setting your goals. And so a couple of things I want to pull out of that, extrapolate from that I think we could all use. Because sometimes when I prepare a class, even though it's for my earthbound life and for the three-dimensional world, it's so spiritual at times when I'm doing that. It's amazing how when you're open, things like that just permeate into everything around you. So a couple of things that came up, and I think they were divinely guided, was changing vocabulary. Like we always talk about choices, and we talked a lot about choices on this show. And any gurus, any spiritual people that you listen to, they talk a lot about choices. I actually even have on my phone my screensaver to remind me of making sure my life is well used. My screensaver says, life is the sum of all your choices. Right? So I see that constantly every day. It reminds me to make sure that my choices are creating the life I want. So getting back to how I started the show about ending 2023 and going into 2024, we all set New Year's resolutions. But the energy is in play right now for so much more than that. So think about when you think about your choices and making choices, instead of using that word, use the word create. So every choice we make creates more of us, right? So our choices can strengthen who we're becoming and who we want to be, or it can weaken our intention for who we want to be. Every single choice. So what is a choice really? A choice is the power of creativity. It's the power of creation, right? So replace the word choice with create. What am I going to choose? No, what am I going to create? Really empowering, you know? And so as you think about, and I strongly urge you guys journaling, even if it's just a one-page thing, if you don't really like to write, think about when you look back at 2023, where you have weaknesses that you need to improve on, and where the things that you really are doing really well and really great at can be brought forward. Because those balance of those things are who you are becoming. If you stay there in exactly those things that make you better and good and that you're really good at, and the things that you're really weak at, and you take that in a container or a package and you put it in a ball and you just stay there, then whoever you are right now is who you are becoming, right? We're not moving forward. We're staying the same, or maybe even getting weaker if we're making poor choices or poor creations. But what, when you look back at 2023, is on that track, on your evaluation, on your introspection of yourself, what needs to be improved on in order for you to actually align with who you want to become? And who you want to become could be somebody with financial abundance and all those material things, and you want to have goals set for that. You want to be a pickleball champion or whatever it might be. You want to buy a certain car or take a certain vacation. That's all great. But go a little deeper. Who are you really becoming in your spirit, in your essence, in your consciousness? Like deeply, who are you becoming? What is the person you really want to be? And now go back and look at that introspection and where are the cracks you need to kind of repair. You know, where are those little cracks materializing in your driveway that you need to kind of plug up a little bit and change some things and improve some things. And so when you're making those choices, think of those choices that you are really making are creations, right? So our choices create us. So when we make a choice, we're really making a creation. You know, am I taking chocolate or vanilla? Well, I'm going to create some vanilla here. I'm going to create some chocolate here. I'm going to create some tutti frutti here, because it gives you an energy and brings you forward in some way. So I was thinking about that today, and I gave this class, and I thought it was a pretty good class. And I just wanted to bring some of that forward because I think that one of the things the soul space is about, and a lot of things that we talk about a lot on this show, is improving ourselves and self-development and all those kind of things. But do we really go back and think about who we are in this moment, the memories, the choices, the things that we created in 2023, And are those really supporting the intention we have for our life? And about, gosh, it's almost 30 years ago now, I wrote a letter to myself about my intention for my life. And I still carried around in my wallet. It's there. I read it every January 1st. And I have created the life that I really had an intention for. And it's not easy to do, but it's easier to do when you have a track to run on. And if you can set an intention for your life and write that down, like we all make a mission statement if we have business. I'm in real estate, and a lot of agents will have a mission statement for their team or their resume or their business or whatever. But how many of us really write an intention for our life, our statement of intention for our life? And my statement of intention partly was to have a life well used and always use any platform I have for service. And so I use my real estate career for service, whether I'm helping a client, whatever their need is. I put myself in there and say, okay, well, where does the world need me in this place? And so I think we have some really great energy in play right now where we can take 2023's intentions and improve on them for 2024 and really build our life forward. And where are the areas that you've really been thinking about for the last few years that you wanted to do or improve or, really move forward, and you haven't been because you're not giving them enough attention? And what can you take attention from that's weakening you and put it in the places where it can help you repair some cracks? And I think that's really the theme for 2024 is let's repair the cracks. We've got Chiron in Aries really giving us healing energy. We've got the North Node right there in Aries with Chiron. We're going to have a conjunction of Chiron in Aries this year. We've got a lot of really super positive energy coming in. So that can go in either direction. You can use that to become more self-indulgent. We can use that to become more entitled, or we can use it to really assert ourselves forward on a soul level. So interesting times. So let me see what we got going on here. So Marie says she keeps her mom's memory alive during the holidays by keeping her family traditions. And I think that's really beautiful. I have a couple of traditions that I like to do. I also have a lot of new traditions because after a tremendous amount of loss in my life, I had to have new traditions. There were things I really couldn't do. And it took me a long time. There were holiday seasons. I do celebrate Christmas. There were a lot of holidays where, people would invite me and I just stayed home by myself because I knew if I went to someone's home, it was just harder for me. Like it made me miss my life more, and I had a lot of things taken, loss, abduction in a very short period of time. And it took me a really long time to adjust to it because I couldn't adjust to it all at once because I would have choked on it, So I remember my first visit to a grief counselor, and she said, well, what's your story? What's going on? And I told her, and she said, well, you're suffering from compounded grief. And I had never heard that expression before. I didn't even know what she was talking about. And then I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, you're grieving X, Y, Z times this, 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 and this. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then she said, and she listed all the people that were gone. And then she said, and you're grieving your cancer. And I said, what? Why would I grieve cancer? Like, I really didn't even get to that part. So it took me a lot of years to get through it all. And you will emerge from it. And I know when you're in loss and, especially when other people are celebrating and it's so hard to see that or be around it sometimes, it's this really heavy, dark place. And when you're there, you think that you're never going to come out of it, that this is going to be your life. And I used to sometimes go to sleep like, you just come home in the middle of the day and you just can't really do anything else but just get in bed. And I would have days like that. And I remember oftentimes getting in bed and thinking, well, this is my life now. This is just my life now. And just complete and utter devastation. And I'm here to tell you that wasn't my life. I have a great life now, and I feel joy and happiness on a really great level, and I know what it's like to be in that devastating place. So keep traditions alive if they bring you forward. Do what you need to do in order to get to a forward place, because if you stay in that negative place, that grief, your life's over. And man, that's a slap in God's face, isn't it? So I wouldn't do that. Okay, yeah, having trouble sleeping is a lot for everybody lately. I think it's definitely those geomagnetic fields. Okay, if anybody else has any comments, put them right in there. We got a few minutes left. Um, I just want to kind of look back a little bit also on, the soul space in 2023. I think we've come a long way. If I look at my first soul space in 2023, we were in a different studio. Bobby created this beautiful studio just for me, and he's doing such amazing work. We're going to continue to do that work. I also feel like we have a lot of things that are going to come in 2024 that I don't even know about yet. For the first time in many, many years, I have this like anticipatory feeling. I don't know if any of you guys are feeling that, but it's almost like I'm really anticipation is the word. Like I'm really anticipating. I have no idea what certain things are going to be, but I just know that there's really good stuff coming on the horizon for all of us, and it's going to be really amazing. I think that we're going to go through a tremendous amount of transitions. I think that we're being upgraded, which just excites me unbelievably. And the other thing I really think that's going to happen, and I've been saying this for a while, but I think 2024 is really when it happens. I think we're going to start seeing some off-planet stuff, like for real. Like I would not be even the least bit shocked if like we really have another life form that reveals itself, like from another planet or something, or that's been here all along or whatever. I really, really feel we're close to that. And with Pluto going into Aquarius and all that Uranian energy, that's a lot of galactic stuff happening. It's a lot of alien energy and scientific energy and things like that. So it's going to be really pretty cool to watch. So I also just want to take some time out to just send so much gratitude to all of you. As I said, I had some pretty rough years, and they're behind me, thankfully. And I'm sure there'll be more rough tides at some point, but we'll get through them. But I just want to say that my life is in a place now where I never really expected it to be. I never knew it was possible for me to do certain things that I'm doing. And it's really a lot because you all are supporting my work. And this work is for you. This is your place. Soul Space is where we all come together every Monday night at 7. And as we progress into 2024, I would love it if you would share the show, comment more. Let's grow this space. Let's get people really on the ball with just being in a community where we're really being led by soul, because that's what it's all about. And I just want to say thank you so much. This is Bobby Lacera. Come on here on camera. Yes, you have to. This is my amazing producer. I can't thank him enough. He created all this stuff for us, and the best is yet to come. So happy holidays to you. I will not be here Christmas Day or January 1st. I will be back on January 7th or 8th, whichever that first Monday is. And on that show, we are going to talk about all the astrology in 2024, and I'll give you dates to put on your calendar that you got to watch. All right. So thank you so much. This is the energy that I source my life from, all the love that I feel from all of you, and the triumph that we give each other. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on social media and back in the soul space soon. Bye-bye.